An unlikely exchange of cultures. Rick's hands trembled as he rummaged through his closet, trying to find something, anything, that might fit his unexpected guests. A pair of sweatpants, a few oversized t-shirts, and a hoodie were all he could come up with. His mind raced, the surreal encounter playing over and over again. Aliens, he thought. Real, living aliens had appeared in his bathroom. And not just any aliens, two strikingly beautiful, blue-skinned beings with a strange curiosity about Earth. His heartbeat pounded in his ears as he tried to steady himself. Focus. Rick, he told himself. There were bigger questions at hand. What were they doing here? What did they want? And how did they end up in his bathroom? He needed answers. But first, he needed to get them dressed. With clothes in hand, he hesitated at the bathroom door. Part of him still couldn't believe what was happening, and a small voice in the back of his mind whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was all some kind of bizarre dream. He knocked softly, clearing his throat before speaking. "Anita, Layla, I've got some clothes for you. Can I come in?" Anita's voice came from the other side, her tone as melodic as before. "Enter, Rick Chambers. We are ready." Rick pushed open the door slowly, expecting the scene to still be strange, and it was. Anita and Layla stood in the middle of his bathroom, now both wrapped in their towels like makeshift togas. The steam from the shower had settled, and they were examining the various toiletries on the sink with childlike fascination. Anita had a bottle of shampoo in her hand, studying the label with an intensity that made Rick wonder if she could somehow read English just by staring at it. Layla, meanwhile, had picked up his razor, turning it over carefully, her fingers tracing the handle as though trying to understand its purpose. She looked up at Rick, her large, glowing eyes filled with curiosity. "Is this a tool of grooming, Rick Chambers?" she asked, holding the razor out for him to see. "We observed that humans remove hair from their faces. Is this the device you use to alter your natural form?" Rick blinked, slightly taken aback by the question. Yeah, that's a razor. Some people, mostly men, use it to shave their facial hair. It's, a personal grooming choice." Layla tilted her head, absorbing this information. Fascinating. "On Oquanine, we celebrate all natural growth, allowing our bodies to remain as they are. The concept of altering one's appearance to conform to societal expectations is curious to us." Anita, now holding a tube of toothpaste, chimed in. "Indeed, we find your customs quite different from ours. Yet, there is beauty in the way you care for your bodies, though it seems rather tedious." Rick couldn't help but chuckle at the observation. "Yeah, it can be. But, let's get you both dressed first. Then we can talk more about Earth and Aquanine." He handed them the clothes, awkwardly looking away as they fumbled with the unfamiliar garments. After a few moments, Anita managed to pull on the sweatpants and the hoodie, though the sleeves were far too long for her slender arms. Layla slipped into the oversized t-shirt, which draped over her like a dress. Rick glanced at them and tried not to laugh at how out of place they looked, but at least they were covered now. Anita stretched her arms, examining the fabric with an approving nod. "These garments are quite soft, functional yet simple. Earthlings are practical creatures, it seems." Layla tugged at the hem of the t-shirt, her eyes wide with wonder. "It is comfortable, though I must admit, it feels strange to cover ourselves like this." Rick rubbed the back of his neck, unsure of how to explain human modesty to aliens from another planet. "Yeah, well, on Earth, people generally don't walk around naked. It's kind of a social thing. We wear clothes to, protect ourselves and, for privacy." Anita and Layla exchanged a glance, as if the concept was new and intriguing to them. Anita nodded thoughtfully. "Privacy, a curious notion. On Oquanine, we are open about our forms, unashamed of what nature has given us. But we are here to learn, Rick Chambers, and we shall respect your customs." Rick breathed a small sigh of relief. "Thanks. Now, let's go to the living room. We can sit and talk about everything." Anita and Layla followed him into the living room, their eyes wide with curiosity as they took in every detail of the space. The furniture, the lighting, even the mundane objects like his TV remote seemed to fascinate them. They sat down giddily on the couch, their posture impossibly straight, their hands resting neatly in their laps. Rick sat across from them in an armchair, leaning forward slightly, his mind racing with questions. This was his chance to get some answers. He took a deep breath, trying to figure out where to start. "Okay," he began, his voice a little shaky. "So, Equinine, you said you're from another planet. What's it like there?" Anita smiled, her eyes glowing softly. "Aquanine is a world of water," Rick Chambers. "Vast oceans cover most of our planet's surface. It is a precious resource to us, one we protect and cherish. Our people live in harmony with the water, our cities built both above and beneath its waves." Rick's brow furrowed in interest. "So, you're like water dwellers?" Layla nodded, her voice soft but eager. "In a way, yes. Our bodies have adapted to the aquatic environment. The webbing between our fingers, for example, helps us move swiftly through the water. The bioluminescence you see in our skin is a natural adaptation that allows us to navigate the dark depths of our oceans." Rick stared at them, his mind spinning with the possibilities. "That's incredible. And you came all the way here to Earth to study our water." Anita leaned forward, her expression serious. "Yes, your planet is rich in water, a resource that is becoming scarce on our world. We have long observed Earth from afar, fascinated by its abundance and the way your species interacts with it. When the opportunity arose to explore your planet up close, we volunteered." Layla's eyes gleamed with excitement as she added, "We wish to learn from you, Rick Chambers. Your people have developed technologies to manage water in ways we have not yet imagined. Showers, for example." She gestured toward the bathroom. "The concept of such a controlled flow of water, available at will, is remarkable to us." Rick raised an eyebrow. "You don't have showers on Aquanine?" Anita chuckled softly. "Not in the way you do. We have natural springs and communal baths, but the idea of harnessing water within your homes, to use at your leisure, it is a luxury we do not afford ourselves." Rick sat back, trying to process everything. Aliens from a water-covered planet were sitting on his couch, discussing Earth's plumbing systems. It was surreal, to say the least. But beneath the strangeness of it all, he felt a sense of awe. These beings had traveled light years to study his world, and here they were, fascinated by something as simple as a shower. "So," Rick said, his voice a little more steady now, "what do you want to learn from me?" Anita's eyes glimmered with curiosity. "Everything, Rick Chambers. Your customs, your technology, your way of life. We wish to understand what it means to be human." Layla nodded eagerly. "Your world is so different from ours. We wish to explore it in every way possible." Rick let out a breath, realizing that this was just the beginning of a much bigger adventure than he had ever anticipated. There was no handbook for dealing with aliens, but one thing was clear. These two visitors had come in peace, and they were genuinely interested in learning from him. "Well," Rick said, a small smile forming on his lips, "I guess we'd better get started then." And with that, an unlikely exchange of cultures began, one that would take Rick far beyond anything he had ever imagined, into a world of curiosity, discovery, and endless possibilities. The wonder of small things. Rick blinked, his vision blurred momentarily from the steam that lingered after the hot shower. He stood frozen in the doorway to his bathroom, trying to make sense of the scene before him. There they were, Anita and Layla, two extraterrestrial beings who had suddenly appeared in his home, now seated on the bathroom floor, wrapped in towels like figures from a surrealist painting. Their luminous blue skin shimmered faintly in the soft light, their silver hair cascading over their shoulders as they looked up at him with wide, curious eyes. It was as though the universe had folded in on itself, bringing the vast unknown directly into Rick's very ordinary life. For a moment, The silence between them was thick with the weight of disbelief. The only sound was the steady drip of water from the showerhead, marking the passage of time in slow, deliberate beats. I brought you some clothes," Rick stammered, still not entirely sure how this was real. He held up a pile of hastily grabbed items, a pair of sweatpants, an old hoodie, and a couple of oversized t-shirts. They were the most neutral things he could find, and he wasn't even sure if they would fit or make sense to beings from another world. Anita, the taller of the two, tilted her head slightly, her large, glowing eyes studying the garments with a mixture of fascination and confusion. "These are coverings, correct? For modesty and protection." Her voice had a melodic quality, like the soft hum of a distant tune, and every word seemed deliberate, as if she was carefully choosing how to express herself in a language that wasn't her own. "Yeah, that's right," Rick said, feeling the awkwardness of the moment deepen. "Here on Earth, we wear clothes for a lot of reasons. It's kind of a social thing." Layla, the smaller of the two, reached out giddily, her fingers brushing against the fabric of the hoodie. She examined it closely, her brow furrowing in concentration. "This texture is strange," she murmured, as if speaking to herself. "So different from the materials we know on Equinane." Rick had to fight the urge to laugh at the absurdity of the situation. Here he was, trying to explain clothing to aliens in his bathroom, while they analyzed his hoodie like it was an ancient artifact. He cleared his throat, attempting to bring some sense of normalcy to the conversation. "Yeah, it's cotton. It's comfortable and keeps you warm. You can, try them on if you want." Anita and Layla looked at each other, exchanging a silent understanding, before slowly rising to their feet. Their movements were graceful, almost fluid, as though they were accustomed to a different kind of gravity, a different set of physical rules. Rick quickly averted his eyes, turning his back to give them some privacy as they fumbled with the unfamiliar clothing. A few moments passed in awkward silence, punctuated only by the occasional rustling of fabric and the soft hum of their quiet conversation. Rick kept his eyes fixed on the bathroom doorframe, his mind racing as he tried to process everything that had happened in the last few hours. These weren't just any visitors. These were beings from another planet, intelligent life forms who had somehow ended up in his home. The implications were staggering, and yet, here he was, worrying about whether the sweatpants would fit them. "Rick Chambers," Anita's voice broke through his thoughts, startling him. He turned around hesitantly and found the two of them standing there, dressed in the mismatched clothes he had provided. The sweatpants were a little too long for Anita, the legs bunching up awkwardly around her ankles, but the hoodie fit well enough. Layla, on the other hand, had pulled on the oversized t-shirt, which hung loosely around her slender frame like a dress. They both looked as though they were trying to make sense of the unfamiliar sensation of being clothed. "How do we appear?" Anita asked, her tone sincere. "Is this an acceptable form of human attire?" Rick couldn't help but smile at the sight. It was strange, sure, but there was something endearing about it too. "You look fine," he said, trying not to laugh. "Maybe not runway fashion, but you're definitely blending in more now." Layla examined her reflection in the mirror, her fingers trailing over the soft cotton of the t-shirt. "Fascinating," she murmured. "This material feels strange against my skin. Is this how humans feel every day?" Rick shrugged. "More or less. We're kind of used to it by now. Clothes are just part of our daily lives. It's not something we really think about." Anita nodded thoughtfully, as if filing away the information for later use. "Interesting. On Equinane, we have no need for such coverings. Our bodies are adapted to the climate, and we live in harmony with the natural elements. But we are here to learn, and we will respect your customs." Rick felt a strange mix of pride and discomfort at the same time. The idea that these advanced beings from another world were taking Earth's customs seriously was both flattering and bizarre. "Thanks," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I appreciate that. So, what now? Do you want to sit down? Maybe talk about, why you're here?" Anita and Layla exchanged another glance, their expressions unreadable. "Yes," Anita said after a brief pause. "It is time to share our purpose. Let us go somewhere more comfortable." Rick led them into the living room, the familiar surroundings suddenly feeling foreign in the presence of his otherworldly guests. He motioned for them to sit on the couch, and they did so with a kind of grace that made even the simple act of sitting seem like an elegant ritual. Rick sat across from them in his worn-out armchair, his mind buzzing with questions. "So," he began, trying to sound casual, "you're from Aquanine. That's a planet, right? What's it like there?" Layla's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Aquanine is our home," she said softly. "It is a world covered mostly in water, with only a few landmasses scattered across its vast oceans. Our cities are built above and beneath the surface, intertwined with the natural environment. We live in harmony with the water, which sustains all life on our planet." Rick nodded, fascinated. "So, you're water dwellers?" Anita smiled. "In a way, yes. We have adapted to life in and around the oceans. Our bodies are designed to move fluidly through water, and we can survive in deep aquatic environments. The bioluminescence you see in our skin helps us navigate the dark depths, where light from our star cannot reach." Rick's curiosity grew with each word they spoke. "That's incredible. And you came all the way here to Earth to study our water." Layla's expression turned more serious. "Yes, Earth's water is abundant, and it is one of the reasons we have observed your planet for so long. We seek to understand how your species manages and utilizes this precious resource. On Aquanine, water is sacred, and we have strict methods of conservation. But we are facing challenges, our oceans are changing, and we fear that without new knowledge, we may lose what sustains us." Rick felt a twinge of unease. The idea that these advanced beings were facing environmental issues on their own planet hit a little too close to home. "I get it," he said, his voice somber. "We're dealing with our own problems with water here too. Pollution, climate change, it's not exactly paradise." Anita nodded gravely. "Yes, we have seen this. It is why we wish to learn from you, both your successes and your failures. Your planet is rich in diversity, both in life and in knowledge. We hope that by studying your ways, we can find solutions for our own world." Rick leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the conversation. These weren't just casual tourists from another planet. They were explorers, scientists, emissaries of a civilization facing its own existential challenges, and somehow, Rick had become their guide to Earth. "Well," he said after a long pause, "I guess I'll do my best to help you with that. But I gotta say, I'm not exactly an expert on water management or anything. I'm just a regular guy." Layla smiled gently. "Your perspective is valuable, Rick Chambers. It is not only the experts we seek, but also those who live in the world, who experience its challenges firsthand. You have much to teach us." Rick wasn't sure how to respond to that. He'd never thought of himself as someone with anything particularly valuable to offer, certainly not to beings from another world. But there was something in the way they spoke, the way they looked at him, that made him feel like maybe, just maybe, he could actually be useful. "All right," he said, a small smile creeping onto his face. "Let's get started then. You want to learn about Earth? I guess I'm your guy." And with that, the strange, wondrous journey began. 2 alien visitors and 1 ordinary human, bound together by curiosity, necessity, and the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. Uncharted territory. Rick found himself standing at the edge of the lake behind his house, staring out over the rippling surface as the sun began to sink below the horizon. The colors of the sky shifted from gold to deep orange, blending with the blue of the water until it looked like a painting in motion. The stillness of the scene was at odds with the turmoil in his mind. 2 extraterrestrial beings, Anita and Layla, were now a part of his life. Just a few days ago, his biggest concern had been paying bills and managing his mundane routine. Now, he was hosting interplanetary visitors who claimed to be studying Earth's water for the survival of their world. Behind him, Anita and Layla stood silently, their eyes fixed on the lake as if they were absorbing every detail. The sun's fading light cast a soft glow on their iridescent blue skin, making them look even more alien against the backdrop of Earth's natural beauty. Rick glanced back at them, still trying to wrap his head around how casually they fit into his world now. "Your planet's water is alive in a way that is different from ours," Anita said, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm but carried an undertone of awe. She knelt by the edge of the lake and dipped her fingers into the water, watching as tiny ripples spread outward. The ecosystems, the balance of minerals and life forms, it is more complex than we anticipated. Layla stepped forward, her large, luminous eyes scanning the horizon. "We can feel the energy of this place. The water here vibrates with the essence of life, both seen and unseen. It is not just a resource. It is a pulse, a heartbeat of this planet." Rick had never thought of water that way before. To him, it had always just been part of the landscape, something essential, sure, but also just there, taken for granted. He crouched down next to Anita and watched her trace patterns in the lake's surface, his mind spinning with questions. "How is it different from your planet's water?" Rick asked, genuinely curious. "I mean, water is water, right?" Layla smiled softly, her gaze still fixed on the lake. "The water on Aquanine is ancient, stagnant in some ways. It is pure, but lacks the vibrant interaction of ecosystems like this. Life there is dependent on strict cycles and controlled environments. Over time, our oceans have become less hospitable to change. Here, on Earth, the water is dynamic. It fosters growth, adapts, evolves." Anita turned to face Rick, her expression serious. "This adaptability is what we need to understand. Our oceans are shifting, becoming hostile to the life forms that depend on them. If we cannot reverse the damage, our world will face extinction." Rick swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their words. The idea that these highly advanced beings, capable of traveling across galaxies, were facing an environmental catastrophe on their home planets sent a chill through him. It was a stark reminder of how fragile life really was, no matter how advanced the technology or civilization. "So you think Earth's water can help you fix things back on Aquanine?" Rick asked, his voice low. Layla nodded, her silver hair catching the last rays of the setting sun. "We believe that Earth's water holds the key to unlocking a solution. The diversity of life, the resilience of your ecosystems, it may offer us insights that could save our world." Rick stood up, his hands in his pockets as he paced along the shore. The enormity of the situation was starting to sink in. This wasn't just about him helping a couple of friendly aliens understand Earth. This was about survival on a planetary scale. He turned to face them, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. "Okay, I get it. But how do I fit into all this?" he asked. "I'm not a scientist, and I'm definitely not an expert on water conservation or environmental science. I mean, I'm just a regular guy." Anita stood up, her height giving her a commanding presence despite her gentle demeanor. "Your perspective is important, Rick. You may not realize it, but you are connected to this world in ways we are not. You understand the rhythms of human life, the everyday interactions with nature that shape your species. We can learn from that." Layla stepped closer, her eyes filled with a kind of earnestness that made Rick's heart race. "You see things we cannot. We have the technology to analyze data, but you have the intuition to understand how that data fits into the larger picture. Your insights, however small they may seem, are invaluable." Rick blinked, taken aback by the faith they were placing in him. No one had ever looked at him that way before, as if his thoughts and observations mattered on a cosmic level. He scratched the back of his neck, unsure of what to say. Finally, he let out a small laugh, shaking his head. "Well, I'll do what I can," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "But if we're going to figure this out, we're going to need some help. There are people who know way more about this stuff than I do." Anita smiled, a warm and reassuring gesture that made Rick feel a little more at ease. "We understand. and we are prepared to work with your people. But for now, let us continue our observations. The more we can learn from this environment, the better equipped we will be to communicate with your scientists." Rick nodded, feeling a strange sense of responsibility settle over him. These beings were relying on him to bridge the gap between their world and his, to help them find solutions that could save an entire civilization. It was overwhelming, but at the same time, it gave him a sense of purpose that he hadn't felt in a long time. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, leaving the lake bathed in the soft glow of twilight, Rick took a deep breath and turned back to Anita and Layla. "So, where do we start?" he asked, ready to dive into whatever strange, uncharted territory lay ahead. Layla's eyes gleamed in the growing darkness, her voice soft but determined. "We start by listening to the water." Secrets beneath the surface. The next morning, Rick woke up to the sound of gentle rainfall tapping against his bedroom window. He rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the remnants of a strange dream that involved alien ships, endless oceans, and a swirling vortex of water pulling him deeper into the unknown. But as reality came back into focus, he remembered the aliens weren't part of a dream. They were real, and they were in his living room. He dressed quickly and padded down the hall, still half asleep but curious to see what Anita and Layla were up to. The soft hum of conversation met his ears before he rounded the corner. As he stepped into the room, he was greeted by the sight of the two alien women sitting cross-legged on the floor, their attention focused on a small holographic device that projected images and data into the air between them. Anita looked up first, her silver eyes locking onto Rick with a sense of calm urgency. "Good morning, Rick Chambers," she said with a nod. "We've been analyzing the water samples we collected last night. The results are fascinating." Layla followed suit, smiling warmly at Rick as she gestured toward the floating hologram. "There is more complexity to Earth's water than we initially understood. It's not just the chemical composition. There is something else, something deeper." Rick blinked, still not entirely awake. "Something deeper? What do you mean?" Anita extended a hand, her fingers gliding through the holographic projection. It shifted and morphed, displaying molecular structures, intricate patterns, and a glowing web of energy that seemed to pulse with life. "The water on your planet has a unique resonance," she explained. "It responds to the life around it. It's as if it is in constant communication with the environment." Rick scratched his head, trying to wrap his mind around what they were saying. "Water communicates, like with plants and animals." "Exactly," Layla replied, her excitement palpable. "It's as if the water here has a memory, a way of retaining information about the life forms it interacts with. We believe this may be one of the reasons your ecosystems are so diverse and resilient." Rick felt a flicker of awe. He had always taken water for granted, seen it as a simple resource. But the way Anita and Layla spoke about it made him realize that Earth's water was something far more extraordinary. It was alive in a way he had never imagined. "So, what does that mean for your planet?" Rick asked, pulling up a chair and sitting down across from them. "If Earth's water is so different from what you're used to, how does that help you fix things back home?" Anita's expression grew serious as she turned off the holographic display. "We believe that if we can understand how water on Earth interacts with life, we may be able to replicate that process on Equinane. Our planet's oceans have become isolated, stagnant. The cycle of life has been disrupted. But if we can reintroduce that sense of connection, that adaptability, we may be able to restore balance." Layla chimed in, her voice softer but no less determined. "We are not just here to take samples. We need to understand the relationship between your water and your world, and we cannot do that alone." Rick leaned back in his chair, his mind buzzing with the enormity of what they were saying. They weren't just studying Earth's water to take it back to their planet. They were hoping to unlock a secret that could save their entire species. And somehow, he was part of that process. "So, what do we do next?" he asked, trying to focus on the practical steps rather than the overwhelming implications. Anita and Layla exchanged a glance, communicating silently in a way that made Rick feel like an outsider, even as they included him in their mission. Finally, Anita turned to him with a clear sense of purpose. "We need to go deeper," she said, her voice firm. "Last night was just the beginning. There are places on Earth where the water is older, more ancient, and connected to forces that go beyond what we've seen so far. These places may hold the answers we seek." Rick's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't entirely sure what she meant by forces, but the way she said it made him think of something mystical, something that science alone couldn't explain. He'd always been a skeptic, grounded in reality, but ever since Anita and Layla had materialized in his apartment, he was starting to question what he thought he knew about the world. "Do you have a place in mind?" Rick asked cautiously. Layla nodded, her silver hair shimmering in the morning light. "There are several sites around the world that we have identified as significant. Some are ancient lakes, others are deep-sea trenches, but there is one place in particular that stands out: Lake Baikal in Russia. It is the deepest and oldest freshwater lake on your planet." Rick's eyes widened. He had heard of Lake Baikal in passing, but he had never given much thought to its significance. "Lake Baikal, that's thousands of miles away," he said, feeling a knot form in his stomach. "How are we supposed to get there?" Anita smiled, her calm confidence once again reassuring. "We have technology that can transport us quickly, much like how we arrived in your home. If you are willing, we can leave as soon as you're ready." Rick took a deep breath, his mind racing. This was all happening so fast. Just a few days ago, he had been living a normal life. Now, he was about to travel across the world with two aliens on a mission to save their planet. It sounded like something out of a movie, but this was real, and somehow he had become part of it. He stood up, running a hand through his hair as he tried to collect his thoughts. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll need to pack a few things, but I'm in." Layla beamed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Thank you, Rick Chambers. You are helping us more than you know." As Rick headed to his bedroom to gather his belongings, he couldn't shake the feeling that this journey was going to change everything, not just for Anita and Layla, but for him as well. He had spent his whole life looking for purpose, for something bigger than himself. Now, it seemed that purpose had found him. 30 minutes later, Rick was packed and ready to go. He met Anita and Layla in the living room, where they were waiting patiently, that alien technology already primed for the next phase of their mission. Anita held up a small device that looked like a sleek metallic disc. "This will transport us to Lake Baikal," she explained. "It may feel disorienting at first, but the process is quick and painless." Rick nodded, taking one last deep breath before stepping closer to the two alien women. His heart was pounding, but a strange sense of excitement had replaced his earlier hesitation. This was it. He was about to embark on a journey that most people could only dream of. Anita activated the device, and within seconds, the room around them began to blur. The walls, the furniture, the very air seemed to warp and twist, as if they were being pulled through space itself. Rick's stomach lurched, but before he could react, the sensation was over. They were standing on the shores of Lake Baikal. The air was crisp and cool, and the lake stretched out before them like an endless mirror, reflecting the snow-capped mountains in the distance. Rick stared in awe at the scene, feeling a sense of wonder that was impossible to put into words. This place felt ancient, timeless, as if it held secrets that went beyond human understanding. Anita and Layla stood beside him, their expressions calm but focused. "This is where we begin," Anita said softly, her eyes fixed on the lake. "The answers we seek lie beneath the surface." Rick nodded, his gaze shifting to the water. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: his life would never be the same again. The depths of discovery. Rick stood on the shores of Lake Baikal, feeling the cool breeze tug at his jacket as he stared out at the vast expanse of water that shimmered like glass beneath the midday sun. The scenery was breathtaking, with the pristine blue lakes surrounded by towering mountains cloaked in lush green forests, and the air was infused with a refreshing, earthy scent that invigorated him. Yet, beneath the beauty lay an undercurrent of mystery and anticipation. Anita and Layla had been quietly studying the landscape, their silvery eyes scanning the horizon. The stillness of the lake was almost eerie, a stark contrast to the flurry of thoughts racing through Rick's mind. What were they really looking for? How would they connect the secrets of Earth's water to their mission? And what role did he play in this grand endeavor? "Rick," Anita called, breaking his reverie. "We need to gather samples and perform initial assessments before diving deeper into our investigation." "Right," Rick replied, shaking off his thoughts. "What do you need from me?" Layla smiled, her enthusiasm evident. "First, we'll need water samples from various depths to analyze their composition and resonance. Then, we will utilize the device to measure the energy patterns in the water." She pointed to a sleek backpack that had materialized from the transport device, filled with high-tech instruments that gleamed in the sunlight. Rick grabbed the pack and slung it over his shoulder, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon him. He led the way to a nearby rocky outcropping that jutted into the lake, where they could safely gather samples without the risk of contamination. As they moved, the quiet beauty of the landscape surrounded them, but Rick's mind was alive with questions. "Why did you choose Lake Baikal?" Rick asked, trying to make sense of it all. "What's so special about this place?" Anita paused, glancing at the water. Lake Baikal is not just the deepest freshwater lake, it also holds more water than the Great Lakes combined. Its ecosystem is ancient and unique. The lake is home to species that exist nowhere else on Earth, and its waters have remained remarkably pristine due to its isolation and the surrounding protective environment. We believe it may hold the key to understanding the life-giving properties we're seeking. Rick nodded, absorbing her words. "And the resonance you mentioned before, how does that work?" "Resonance is a form of communication, an exchange of energy and information," Layla explained as they reached the edge of the lake. "In water, these frequencies can vary based on depth, temperature, and even the life forms present. We aim to capture these vibrations and interpret their meaning, much like reading a language." Rick took a moment to let that sink in. They weren't just collecting water. They were delving into the very essence of life itself. As he knelt by the water's edge, filling the sample containers, he felt a connection to this ancient lake. It was as if the water itself was alive, waiting to share its secrets. After gathering several samples, Anita produced the holographic device from her backpack. "Now, let's analyze the energy patterns," she said, her voice steady with determination. She set the device on a flat rock and placed one of the water samples into a small chamber. With a flick of her wrist, the device hummed to life, projecting a series of intricate images into the air. Swirling patterns and pulsing colors danced before them, each fluctuation revealing something new and wondrous. The air filled with a low, melodic sound, resonating with the beauty of the lake and echoing through the mountains. Rick watched in fascination as the device displayed a complex web of interconnected shapes and colors. "What are we looking at?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. "The water is alive with energy," Anita explained, her eyes glowing with excitement. "These patterns represent the life forms present in the lake, their interactions, and how they communicate. It's beautiful and intricate, a language of its own." As she spoke, Rick felt a shiver of understanding wash over him. The idea that water could communicate in a way that transcended mere chemical properties was astounding. Suddenly, he felt a responsibility to help uncover those mysteries. "Is there a way we can enhance the device?" Rick asked, his mind racing with possibilities. "To see how the water resonates with life in a more pronounced way." Anita paused, considering his suggestion. It may be possible to amplify the device's capabilities, but we would need to locate specific elements around the lake, minerals that can enhance its sensitivity to the water's frequencies. There's no guarantee, but it's worth a try. Layla nodded, her silver eyes sparkling with determination. We've read of a nearby cave system that runs under the lake. Some believe it's filled with rare minerals that could help us. Rick's heart raced. The idea of exploring a cave system was thrilling and a little daunting. "Lead the way," he said, feeling a surge of adrenaline. The thrill of adventure overshadowed his earlier doubts, and he was ready to dive deeper into this mystery. As they made their way along the shore, the landscape shifted from rocky outcrops to dense foliage. The sounds of birds and rustling leaves enveloped them, and Rick felt a sense of connection to the world around him, a stark reminder of the life teeming beneath the surface. After a short hike, they reached the entrance to the cave, a dark moor set into the mountainside. The air was cool and damp, the earthy scent of moss and stone filling Rick's senses. He felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Are you ready?" Anita asked, her voice low and steady, cutting through the silence. Rick nodded, swallowing hard. "Let's do this." As they entered the cave, the darkness enveloped them, and they switched on their flashlights, illuminating the rugged walls and glistening mineral deposits that sparkled like stars. Stalactites hung like frozen icicles from the ceiling, and the sound of dripping water echoed through the cavern, a gentle reminder of the life-filling force that flowed through it. After walking deeper into the cave, they reached a chamber filled with stunning crystalline formations that radiated a soft, ethereal light. The sight took Rick's breath away. It felt as if they had stumbled upon a hidden world, untouched and waiting to reveal its secrets. "This is incredible," Rick whispered, stepping closer to one of the formations. "What kind of minerals are these?" "Some appear to be quartz," Anita said, examining the crystals. "But there are also other elements, perhaps even those we've never encountered before. If we can harness their properties, it could amplify our readings significantly." Layla began collecting samples, carefully extracting small pieces of the crystals, while Rick and Anita worked together to set up the holographic device. He could feel a surge of excitement as they prepared to take their analysis to the next level. Once they had gathered a few samples, Anita placed them near the water sample they had collected earlier, activating the device once more. This time, the hologram erupted into a vivid display of colors and sounds, more vibrant and intricate than before. The resonance of the water seemed to swell and pulse, creating a symphony of movement that echoed throughout the cave. Rick watched in awe as the projections transformed, revealing a deeper layer of information. Patterns he hadn't noticed before were now coming to life. He could see the interconnectedness of everything, how the water resonated with the minerals and the energy of the cave itself. "This is remarkable," Rick exclaimed, barely able to contain his excitement. "It's like we're witnessing the heartbeat of the lake." Anita nodded, her expression one of intense focus. "We are beginning to understand the language of the water. With each layer of complexity we uncover, we come closer to deciphering its secrets." As they worked, Rick felt an overwhelming sense of purpose and belonging. Here, in this ancient cave, he was part of something much larger than himself, a mission to save a world that was not his own. It was exhilarating and terrifying, and he couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning. Hours passed as they delved deeper into their analysis, and the excitement of discovery fueled their efforts. Finally, as the shadows began to stretch and the cave dimmed, Anita turned to Rick with a thoughtful expression. "We have enough data to begin drawing conclusions," she said, her tone serious. "But this is just the start. We must now return to the surface and begin synthesizing what we've learned." As they made their way back through the winding passages of the cave, Rick couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of something extraordinary. There was a connection here, a bond between Earth and Aquanane, a relationship waiting to be nurtured. Emerging from the cave, they were greeted by the brilliant colors of the sunset painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The lake sparkled beneath the fading light, and for a moment, Rick stood still, taking it all in. He turned to Anita and Layla, their silhouettes framed by the glow of the setting sun. "What's next?" he asked, eager to learn how they would proceed with their newfound knowledge. Anita glanced at the lake, a contemplative expression on her face. We must process the data and begin testing how we can replicate these resonances. But we also need to explore further. There are other locations on Earth, places where the water's life force may offer even more insights. Layla smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. And we need your help, Rick. We will travel together, exploring the depths of your world and learning from it. This journey is not just ours, it is a shared endeavor. Rick's heart swelled at their words. He had always wanted adventure, but now he felt like a true participant in something monumental. He was ready to discover more, to dive deeper into the secrets of the universe, and to forge connections that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. "Let's do it," he said, determination sparking in his voice. Where to next? With the sun setting behind them, casting long shadows across the shore, the three of them set off toward the next chapter of their journey, united in purpose and filled with hope. They were explorers, scientists, and friends, bound by the shared mission to uncover the secrets hidden beneath the surface, not only for the sake of Equanine, but for the future of all worlds intertwined by the flow of water. The call of the ocean. The journey from Lake Baikal to the coast of California was a whirlwind of excitement and anticipation. As Rick, Anita, and Layla traveled, the landscapes shifted dramatically from the lush greenery surrounding the lake to the vibrant, sun-drenched coast. The salty breeze filled the air as they approached the Pacific Ocean, the rhythmic sound of crashing waves creating a symphony of nature that resonated deep within Rick's soul. "Here we are," Anita said, stepping out of the transport device, her eyes sparkling as she took in the expansive view of the ocean. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the water. The Pacific Ocean is another vital body of water for our research. It holds diverse ecosystems and incredible depths, with mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Rick felt the warmth of the sun on his skin and the invigorating scent of the sea air filling his lungs. "What exactly are we hoping to find here?" he asked, scanning the coastline. Layla stepped forward, her demeanor thoughtful. The Pacific is known for its complex marine life and unique geological features, including hydrothermal vents and underwater canyons. We believe that studying the water here can reveal important connections between aquatic life and the resonances we've observed in Baikal. "What about the currents?" Rick inquired, intrigued by the thought of such dynamic forces at play. "They must affect the energy patterns in the water, right?" Anita nodded, her expression serious. "Exactly. The currents are crucial. They carry nutrients and life, shaping the ecosystem and influencing the way species interact. We'll need to analyze the water at different depths and locations along the coast to understand the broader implications." As they made their way to the beach, Rick felt a sense of camaraderie with his companions. Each step brought them closer to the unknown, and he was eager to uncover the mysteries lying beneath the waves. Once on the sand, they quickly unpacked their equipment, setting up a series of sampling stations. The beach was a flurry of activity, with surfers riding the waves, families enjoying picnics, and seagulls cawing overhead. But Rick was focused, drawn to the water's edge where the surf met the shore. He knelt down, running his fingers through the cool, frothy water, and felt a profound connection to the ocean. It was as if the very essence of life flowed through him, whispering secrets of the past, present, and future. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore felt like an ancient rhythm, calling to him, beckoning him to dive deeper. "Let's start our sampling," Anita instructed, breaking Rick from his reverie. She handed him a set of containers designed to collect water samples from various depths. "We'll take measurements along the shoreline first, then venture further out into the water." Rick nodded, excitement coursing through him. They moved methodically, collecting samples every few meters, each container filled with the shimmering ocean water. Layla utilized the holographic device to capture energy readings, her eyes focused intently on the display as the colors danced before them, revealing a spectrum of resonances. "This is fascinating," Layla said, adjusting the settings on the device. The patterns here are more complex than in Baikal. The ocean has a much more intricate language. What do you mean? Rick asked, curious about her insights. The variations in resonance suggest a more dynamic interaction among the life forms, Layla explained. It seems that the currents are influencing not just the nutrient distribution, but also the communication between species. We must delve deeper to understand how these interactions evolve. As they continued their work, the sun dipped lower, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink. The beauty of the moment was palpable, and Rick felt a profound sense of purpose envelop him. This was more than just a scientific mission. It was a journey into the heart of life itself. Suddenly, a loud splash broke his thoughts, and he turned to see a pod of dolphins leaping gracefully through the waves, their sleek bodies glistening in the setting sun. Rick's heart soared at the sight, a testament to the vibrant life that thrived in the ocean. "Look," he exclaimed, pointing toward the playful creatures. "They're incredible." "They are," Anita agreed, her eyes shining with wonder. Dolphins are known for their intelligence and social structures. They communicate in ways we are just beginning to understand. As the dolphins continued to play, Rick felt an urge to get closer to them. Can we study their interactions? They might provide valuable insights into the ocean's resonance. Anita smiled. "Yes, we can. If we set up a recording device, we may capture their communication patterns. They could help us decode the ocean's language." With newfound determination, they prepared to take their research to the next level. Layla set up the recording device near the water's edge, while Rick and Anita positioned themselves further out, ready to observe the dolphins up close. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the beach, the ocean began to take on an otherworldly glow. Rick felt an electric energy in the air, a connection to the ocean's depths that seemed to pulse with life. He waded into the water, feeling the cool waves wash over him, and closed his eyes, allowing the sounds of the ocean to envelop him. Suddenly, he felt a rush of movement nearby, and he opened his eyes to see a dolphin swimming just feet away. The creature paused, its intelligent eyes meeting Rick's, and for a fleeting moment, he felt an unspoken bond, a communication that transcended words. "Wow," Rick breathed, captivated by the encounter. "Did you see that?" Anita, who had also been in the water, nodded in awe. "It's incredible. They're drawn to us." Rick realized that the dolphins were not just animals, they were messengers, guardians of the ocean's secrets. He watched as they began to swim in circles, creating a fluid dance in the water, their movements graceful and harmonious. "This is what we need to capture," Layla called from the shore, excitement lacing her voice. "The way they interact, the energy they emit, everything is connected." Rick felt a rush of adrenaline as he and Anita joined Layla at the shoreline, excitedly adjusting the recording equipment to capture the dolphins' movements and sounds. The trio worked in unison, that energy palpable as they prepared to document this extraordinary phenomenon. Just as they finished setting up, the dolphins swam closer, leaping and twirling in an exuberant display. The sound of their clicks and whistles filled the air, a symphony of communication that resonated with the energy of the ocean. Rick felt the thrill of discovery surge within him. They were about to witness something truly extraordinary. As the night deepened, the ocean shimmered under the light of the moon, casting a silver glow on the waves. The dolphins continued their playful dance, their clicks and whistles creating a melody that echoed through the night. Rick watched, entranced, as the creatures displayed an intelligence and joy that transcended understanding. Suddenly, a brilliant idea sparked in Rick's mind. What if we use a holographic device to visualize their communication patterns in real time? We might be able to decipher their messages. "Great thinking," Layla exclaimed, her eyes alight with enthusiasm. "Let's set it up." In a flurry of excitement, they quickly adjusted the holographic device to capture the dolphins' clicks and whistles. As they did, the device projected intricate patterns of light and color into the night, responding to the dolphins' vocalizations in real time. The resonance of the ocean came alive before their eyes, and they watched in awe as the patterns transformed into a dazzling display, reflecting the dolphins' communication. "This is amazing," Anita said, her voice a mix of excitement and disbelief. "We're witnessing a language we've never seen before." Rick felt a rush of exhilaration. The colors and shapes danced in harmony with the rhythm of the dolphins' movements, revealing a world of communication hidden beneath the surface. It was a language of the ocean, a vital connection between species that transcended boundaries. As they continued to observe, Rick noticed that the dolphins began to respond to the projections, swimming closer to the light and interacting with the patterns. It was as if they recognized the language of the device, engaging with it in a way that felt almost magical. "Do you see that?" Rick exclaimed. "They're reacting to what we've created." "It's like we've opened a channel," Layla said, her voice filled with wonder. "They sense our presence and want to communicate with us." The trio watched in awe as the dolphins danced around the holographic display, their clicks resonating with the vibrant colors swirling before them. The air was thick with anticipation, and Rick felt a deep sense of connection to these incredible creatures, understanding that they were part of something much larger. Suddenly, a powerful wave crashed against the shore, sending a spray of water over them and breaking the spell. The dolphins paused, glancing back toward the depths of the ocean, their behavior shifting. It was as if they sensed a change in the atmosphere. "Did you feel that?" Anita asked, her brow furrowing. "Something feels different." Before Rick could respond, the dolphins turned and swam toward the horizon, disappearing into the dark waters. A sense of unease washed over him, and he exchanged worried glances with Anita and Layla. "What's happening?" Layla whispered, her eyes scanning the ocean. "Why are they leaving?" "I'm not sure," Rick replied, his heart pounding. "But it feels like they're warning us about something." Anita knelt down, her fingers trailing through the sand as she concentrated. "We need to analyze the data we've collected. There could be something in the ocean's resonance that's shifted." Rick nodded, his thoughts racing. They quickly gathered their equipment and made their way back to the beach, eager to understand the sudden change. The rhythmic sound of the waves now felt foreboding, as if the ocean held secrets that were just out of reach. As they set up the holographic device on the sand, Layla began inputting the data they had gathered. The patterns from earlier still lingered in her memory, but now they felt different, more chaotic. She focused on the analysis, her brow furrowing with concentration. "This isn't just about the dolphins," Layla said, her voice tense. "There's a disturbance in the ocean's energy. It's almost like a pulse, and it's growing stronger." "What do you mean?" Rick asked, glancing between her and Anita, who was busy adjusting their equipment. "Is it dangerous?" Anita straightened, her expression serious. "We don't know yet, but if the dolphins felt it, it could be a sign of something significant, perhaps a shift in the currents or an environmental change." Layla's fingers flew over the holographic interface, analyzing the data with urgency. "I'm picking up anomalies in the resonance patterns. They're not just random. It feels like an echo of something much larger beneath the surface." Rick's heart raced as he looked out at the ocean, the waves rolling in with a newfound intensity. The air was electric, charged with a sense of urgency and foreboding. "What do we do?" "We need to get to the bottom of this," Layla replied, her determination evident. "We can't ignore what's happening. We must analyze the ocean further, perhaps even venture out to where the disturbance is strongest." Anita nodded, her eyes narrowed with resolve. "We'll need to go deeper, gather samples from the depths. The ocean holds the answers, and we must find them before it's too late." As they prepared for the next phase of their expedition, Rick felt a mixture of fear and excitement bubbling within him. The ocean had called them, revealing both beauty and mystery, but now it seemed to harbor something darker, a challenge that awaited them in the depths. With their equipment ready, they set out toward the horizon, united in purpose and propelled by an unyielding spirit of exploration. The waves lapped at their feet, each step forward bringing them closer to the unknown. As they waded deeper into the water, Rick glanced back at the shoreline, where the last remnants of daylight faded into darkness. He knew they were entering a realm of uncertainty, but with every heartbeat, he felt the call of the ocean growing stronger, urging him to embrace the adventure ahead. And so, with the moonlight illuminating their path, they ventured into the depths of the Pacific, ready to uncover the mysteries waiting to be revealed.